Gold runs in the Beets family, but no one expected this. For years, Mike Beets worked under the shadow of his legendary father, Tony, operating heavy machinery, managing crews, and keeping the family's gold mining empire running. Unlike his outspoken siblings, he stayed out of the spotlight, quietly building something of his own. While his father's fortune soared to $15 million, Mike's net worth was just a fraction of that, until now. After years of relentless work in the unforgiving Yukon, he left behind something that would change everything. It wasn't just about gold. It was about legacy, sacrifice, and a final surprise that shook the entire Beets family to their core. So, what exactly did Mike leave behind? And why did it have such a powerful impact on those closest to him? Mike Beets has spent his entire life surrounded by gold, not just in the ground, but in the family business that made the Beets name famous. He's the second youngest in a mining dynasty led by his father, Tony Beets, the legendary $15 million Klondike King. While his siblings, Kevin and Mona, carved their own paths in the family's gold mining empire, Mike developed a reputation as the crew's heavy machinery expert, capable of handling the toughest jobs on site. If something massive needs to be moved, whether it's a 40-ton crane, an Oshkosh truck, or a multi-million-dollar wash plant, Mike is the one behind the controls. He's the guy making sure the operation doesn't grind to a halt. But despite his skills, his fortune is shockingly small compared to his father's. Mike has worked in mining since he was 13 years old, starting at the bottom like every Beets kid. While his father built an empire, Mike learned how to operate heavy machinery, haul massive loads, and handle the daily grind of life on a gold claim. Fast forward to today, and he's one of the most skilled operators in the business. But here's the twist. His net worth is just $200,000. That's less than $2 million, while Mike is still fighting to prove himself. And the biggest question is, why? The Beets family isn't like other mining crews. This isn't a corporate operation with boardrooms and investors. It's a dynasty built on hard work, risk, and a little bit of luck. Tony, originally from the Netherlands, arrived in Canada with a dream and turned it into a gold mining empire. Along the way, he made sure his kids worked just as hard as any other miner. For Mike, that meant waking up early, working long hours, in freezing conditions, and taking on the most physically demanding jobs. By his late teens, he was running heavy machinery, moving dredges, and handling multi-million-dollar equipment like a pro. But here's the reality. Tony Beets is still the boss. Unlike Kevin and Monica, who have taken on bigger leadership roles, Mike remains in his father's shadow. He's respected, he's experienced, but he doesn't own the operation. And that means he's still earning a miner's wage instead of an owner's fortune. Mining isn't cheap, and neither is running a crew the size of Team Beets. Mike's salary? Around $25,000 per episode of Gold Rush. That means he's pulling in roughly $500,000 per season. A solid paycheck, but still nowhere near what Tony rakes in from the business itself. Outside of TV, Mike's earnings come from his hands-on work at the mine, which is far less lucrative than what his father and siblings make as decision-makers. The gap is obvious. While Kevin and Monica are involved in the business side of mining, Mike is still on the ground doing the heavy lifting. While Mike is best known for his role on Gold Rush, there's one thing about him that most people don't. Expect, he's not just a miner. When he's not hauling gold-rich dirt across the Yukon, he's engaging in full-contact medieval combat. Yes, real sword fights. Mike is a medieval recreationist, meaning he suits up in a 60-pound set of armor and fights in actual knightly battles. It's a hobby that sets him apart from the rest of his family. While Tony and Kevin are focused entirely on mining, Mike has another passion that's just as intense. Mining by day, night by night. It's a fascinating contrast. In the Yukon, he's a machine operator battling the elements to pull gold from the ground. But when he's off duty, he's training for tournaments, swinging swords, and living a totally different kind of adventure. But back in the mining world, things aren't always smooth between Mike and Tony. While they work together, they've had more than their fair share of heated moments. One of the biggest blow-ups happened when a trommel shut down unexpectedly. Tony, ever the tough boss, expected Mike to jump in and fix the problem immediately. But when Mike hesitated, saying he was told it wouldn't move, Tony was not happy. His message was clear. Mining isn't about excuses, it's about getting the job done. And that's been the theme of Mike's career. He's talented, he's hardworking, he's one of the best machine operators on Team Beets. But unlike Kevin, who stepped up as a leader, Mike is still proving himself. With a net worth of $200,000, Mike is still far from the level of his father or even his siblings. But why? The truth is, Mike is a worker, not an owner. He runs the heavy equipment, moves the machinery, and keeps the mine running. But he doesn't own the operation. That means while Tony and Kevin see massive paydays from gold sales and business deals, Mike is still earning a miner's wage. And that raises a big question. Will he ever break out of his father's shadow? Mining is dangerous, expensive, and unpredictable. One season can make or break a crew. While Tony has built a fortune through years of smart decisions, Mike is still grinding it out in the day-to-day operations, but that doesn't mean he isn't valuable. In fact, Mike is often the one taking the biggest risks. If something goes wrong with the equipment, he's the one stepping in to fix it, move it, or recover it. And speaking of things going wrong, there was one moment that nearly cost the Beets crew big time. Mike was hauling a $300,000 wash plant, one of the most important pieces of mining equipment on site. It should have been a routine transport job, but then disaster struck. The job was supposed to be simple. Load up a 25-ton wash plant. Transport. Hit 20 miles and get it running at Dominion Creek. A 4-hour job, maybe 5 with careful driving. But in gold mining, nothing is ever that easy. Mike Beets was behind the wheel, leading the operation to move the plant, worth a staggering $300,000, and ensure it arrived in one piece. This was a high-stakes transport mission with one goal: keep the equipment intact and operational. Everything started smoothly. The plant, nicknamed the Kiwi Wash Plant, had been sitting idle at Paradise Hill all season, collecting rust and dust. It wasn't in pristine condition, but it was still a vital piece of machinery capable of processing tons of pay dirt per hour. Tony Beets made a deal to get it moved, and Mike took charge of the transport. The equipment was loaded onto a massive lowboy trailer, secured with industrial-grade chains, and positioned for the long haul. The first few miles were uneventful. The convoy rolled through the dirt roads, navigating tight turns and unpredictable terrain, something the Beets crew had done countless times before. But then, without warning, one of the securing chains snapped. The shift in weight was instant and unforgiving. At that moment, the entire wash plant tilted off balance. The team had no time to react. In seconds, the massive structure crashed off the side of the trailer, slamming into the rocky ground below. The impact kicked up a cloud of dust, and the sound of metal scraping against rock echoed through the valley. Mike's stomach must have dropped. A $250,000 piece of mining equipment was now on its side, partially buried in gravel, and potentially wrecked. This was a full-blown crisis. With gold mining, every second matters. A non-functioning wash plant means no gold, and no gold means no profits. This wasn't just about fixing a mistake. It was about saving the season. Tony Beets wasn't going to wait around. He quickly assembled a recovery crew with 2 massive front-end loaders, the kind of machines that could lift thousands of pounds without breaking a sweat. But even with their power, this wasn't going to be an easy fix. The plan was straightforward, but risky. Hook chains to the plant, lift it slowly, and guide it back onto its base without causing further damage. Any wrong move could make things worse. The plant could tip in the wrong direction, bending critical components, or even getting stuck beyond repair. Mike climbed into one of the loaders, taking control of the recovery effort himself. He knew that if the job wasn't done right, they could be looking at weeks of delays and hundreds of thousands of dollars in lost gold. The first pull strained the chains to their limits. The plant resisted, its weight deeply embedded in the dirt. But slowly, inch by inch, it began to move. The tension in the air was thick. One mistake, and the entire structure could tip too far the other way, causing irreversible damage. The loaders adjusted their grip, keeping the force even and controlled. With one final pull, the wash plant landed back on its base with a heavy thud. The relief was instant. The structure was back upright. But was it still usable? The first check showed visible dents, scratches, and some bent support beams. But the main components, the sluices, screens, and shaker deck were all intact. Against all odds, the plant had survived the fall. There was no time to waste. The crew reinforced the chains, double-checking every fastening point before attempting the transport again. This time, they moved slower. Every bump, every turn was taken with extreme caution. The journey took twice as long, but after 8 grueling hours, the Kiwi wash plant finally arrived at Dominion Creek. The crew wasted no time unloading it, carefully positioning it for immediate operation. A disaster had turned into a recovery mission, and in the end, they had managed to salvage the season. Lessons learned? For Mike, this was a wake-up call. Even after years of experience, no job is ever truly routine. A single broken chain nearly cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars and threatened their entire operation. Gold mining isn't just about digging dirt and running sluice boxes. It's about handling million-dollar equipment with precision and care. But this wasn't. The first time Mike had faced trouble on the road. Transporting equipment is one thing. Navigating dangerous terrain with it is another. And in one of his most challenging moments, Mike found himself on a steep incline, fighting to keep a 15-ton semi-truck from sliding off a mountain road. The road to Indian River was notorious for its treacherous conditions. Steep climbs, loose, gravel, and unpredictable weather. On this particular trip, Mike's truck hit a wet patch mid-climb, and suddenly he lost traction. The back wheels started sliding, then the entire truck started drifting sideways. There was nothing he could do. Gravity took over, and the truck began veering toward the edge. For a few terrifying seconds, it looked like the whole rig was about to go over the side, but this wasn't Mike's first time in a tight spot. He kept his cool, braced the truck, and radioed for help. Levon Beets was nearby and rushed in with another vehicle to anchor the truck before it could slide any further. A heavy-duty chain was secured, and with a coordinated pull, they managed to stabilize the semi and get it moving again. When they finally reached the top, the relief was obvious. The rest of the journey was mostly downhill. But the battle had already been fought. This season had tested Mike in ways few could imagine. Hauling a $300,000 wash plant off a mountainside, recovering from a near-catastrophic slide on Hunker Summit, and still keeping the operation running smoothly. That's the kind of pressure most people would crumble under. But for Mike, this was just another day in the Yukon. Yet while his mining career is constantly in the spotlight, his personal life is far more of a mystery. Unlike his father, who built a name for himself as the loud, no-nonsense leader of the Beets family, Mike operates differently. He isn't interested in sharing details about his personal life with the public, and he stays away from social media, keeping fans guessing about what happens when the cameras stop rolling. For someone who has spent years on television, he has managed to keep his life remarkably private. There are no public records of a wife, no confirmed relationships, and no visible signs of a family outside of his siblings and parents. While his brother Kevin and sister Monica have been more open about their personal lives, Mike keeps his focus on the job, and that's where people know him best. Mining isn't just a career for him, it's his way of life. Since he was 13, he has worked under Tony's leadership, learning every part of the business from the ground up. While Kevin has recently stepped away to start his own mining operation, Mike has remained loyal to the family business, running Paradise Hill and keeping things moving smoothly. Over the years, he's become the backbone of the operation, proving that he isn't just working for Tony, he's building a future in gold mining for himself. His role is massive, from managing crew members to handling multi-million-dollar equipment. And despite the setbacks, breakdowns, and harsh Yukon conditions, he continues to push forward, never backing down from the challenge. But working for Tony Beets isn't easy. His father is one of the most demanding men in the business. And being family doesn't give anyone a free pass. Mike has had his fair share of clashes with his dad. But their disagreements are never personal. It's business. Tony expects results, and when things go wrong, it's on Mike to fix them. There was a moment when a trommel shut down unexpectedly, and Tony wanted his son to step up and handle it. Mike hesitated, arguing that someone had told him it wouldn't move, but Tony wasn't having it. In his eyes, the job isn't done until the problem is solved, and giving up isn't an option. That's the kind of pressure that comes with working in the Beets family. And Mike has learned to handle it. Compared to Kevin and Monica, Mike has taken on more of the heavy lifting, literally. Kevin has moved on to his own claim, where he's proving that he can mine without his father's direct oversight. Monica handles gold cleanup, ensuring that every ounce of gold collected is properly weighed and accounted for. But Mike, he's the one in the machines, making sure everything stays in motion. Whether it's a 40-ton crane, a 25-ton wash plant, or a semi-truck hauling thousands of pounds of equipment up dangerous Yukon roads, he's the one doing the work that makes mining possible. And with gold prices at record highs, every piece of equipment, every transport job, and every operation he oversees is more valuable than ever. His commitment to the business hasn't gone unnoticed. Even Tony has acknowledged that while Kevin may have chosen a different path, Mike has stepped up in a major way. Running Paradise Hill is no small task, but he's doing it successfully, keeping the mine running efficiently and proving that he has what it takes to lead. He's also been instrumental in some of the biggest moves the Beets family has ever made, including the return to Indian River after 4 years away. That move alone required transporting massive machinery over steep, dangerous terrain, a job most people wouldn't even attempt. But for Mike, it was just another challenge to overcome. The biggest question is, what comes next? With Tony still leading the family operation, Mike has the experience and the skills to take over one day. But will he want to? Mining has always been his life, but he has never been one to seek the spotlight or talk about his long-term plans. If he ever decides to break away and start his own operation, he certainly has the knowledge to do it. But so far, he has stayed loyal to his father's business, keeping Paradise Hill running and ensuring that the Beets family remains one of the most successful mining teams in the Klondike. With everything he has built, one thing is clear: Mike Beets is more than just Tony's son. He's a leader in his own right, a skilled operator, and a key figure in one of the most successful gold mining operations in modern history. And while his future may still be a mystery, one thing is certain: whatever he chooses to do next, he'll do it on his terms. But before we go, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. The Beets family's journey is far from over, and you won't want to miss what happens next. And don't forget, subscribe for more exclusive updates. The gold rush never stops, and neither do we.